Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Today is 3:04 p.m., December 8th, 2020. This is a special meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. And we're here today to discuss the dial metrics coming from the state. And I believe that we have Kaylee with us. And Kaylee, do you know if Colleen is hopping on this call today?
Yeah, I would expect so. She might be on another call or transferring over. I can shoot her a message right now.
Okay, great. All right, and Commissioner Glenn is also here, I believe. So we're here today to discuss the dial metrics. The state has contacted and reached out to us to do a check-in that we are breaching the point of moving into red on the dial metric. So with that being said, we have the opportunity to move into red voluntarily as a community. If we do not move into the red metric voluntarily or are not in the red metric voluntarily by December 10th, we will not be eligible for some of the funding that becomes available through Senate Bill 1. That funding is available to some small businesses that meet the criteria if they are closed through the red metric, although it's somewhat vague at this point. And so with that, I think I will open it up to some discussion between city and county partners at this point. Kaylee, do you want to provide us with some additional background information on that, or do you have anything to add at this point?
Kayla, I don't really have anything to add at this point. Colleen is on a meeting until 3:30, but I believe some of her public health and nursing staff is on to answer any public health specific questions. In the chat, I can also put the dial restrictions and that guidance so folks can reference that. I think a lot of our conversation will be around that kind of material.
Okay. Let's see here. Thank you. Go ahead, Sarah.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to, I guess, start the conversation, and granted, Colleen is not here yet, but I think that, understanding that the legislation was being developed and put in place, my take on, the feed that we've got from the community and the business community especially, would be to continue to operate as is best for the county and with what levers we know to be effective in looking at lessening the spread, with the intention to meet all the intent set by the state in the regulations per the orange, red, or any of the dial metrics. And, for a couple months now, I think we've been, really in the red, but because we're so small and because that debate has been happening between counties and the state as to really looking at what those numbers mean and how that actually correlates to the impact on the health system, which is kind of the core of the issue, and that's trying to be addressed and mitigated. I understand, we have a pretty good understanding between the state and the counties that will, they may designate us as something, at least this is how we have been operating, right? And I know some other counties have put out pilot programs to be kind of more formally recognized by the state. But the state designates as something, and I think our intention is to acknowledge that and continue to respond with what measures actually are effective and create some change here. Recently the big debate was whether or not to pull that lever that affects business owners, as we have not seen transmission and our numbers increasing due to businesses being open. Now there may be some industries that are, certainly going to be affected differently than others, restaurants and bars. We've been working with the EDC and encouraging the EDC and their board to develop a program that we want to offer to our local businesses. And Kayla, Commissioner Marcella can chime in a bit more too, with specifics on that legislation. But in reading through that, I don't know that we think, well, sorry. I think we understand that to really be targeted to Front Range and larger communities and larger businesses. From the feedback that we've gotten from the beginning of the pandemic, I would presume and kind of advocate that we continue to operate as we can, and we don't go into red voluntarily just to take advantage of this funding, because I think the administrative burden and the actual eligibility of our local businesses is the benefit of that. There'll be far less businesses actually eligible, I think, for that funding. But that's one of the pieces that we hope to hear from you all on, and or get questions that we can go back and look at that language to really consider more deliberately. Mayor Labbe, do you have any thoughts on that?
Unmute myself. I do, and thank you. I would say, kind of preface it by saying, I've really appreciated through all this the way the county commissioners have really tried to support our businesses. I mean, and it's been an evolving issue for us, for all of us, to try and learn as we go through this. Going into this next phase, I think we're better mentally prepared to respond back to the state. So I would say this. I don't really have a problem with this going into red. I don't love it, but I can understand it. However, I'd like for us, to Commissioner Mudge's point, to possibly follow the Mesa County hybrid model that the state has accepted. CDPHE is letting them do it. And that is that businesses that are adhering to the protocol are still allowed to be open with inside seating, limited inside seating. And the reason I say that, and I've told some of you this already, a weekend before this last weekend, I walked around all over town, probably went into 25 different businesses, and every single business was adhering to COVID protocol. Everybody in the business had masks on. Some of the customers didn't, but there's only so much control we have over that. So I think the point is, again, back to Commissioner Mudge's point, is that the genesis of COVID spread is not in the businesses. They're the safest places in Lake County. And so going into red to get this out to the public, get them to pay attention is one thing, but going into red and shutting our businesses down again is something that I would personally and professionally oppose. And I'd look towards a hybrid model there that allows us to keep our businesses open. It's so important.
Thanks, Mayor Labbe. Marla Akridge from the EDC is here. Marla, I'm wondering if you can provide us with some feedback that you've heard from our business community.
Yes, absolutely. I would echo what the mayor just said, that I think that hybrid model, because I've looked at it quite a bit, could make sense to us. I do have the question of, what funding would we be missing out on? But I'll tell you, just like the mayor had made visits, we've made a lot of calls and visits, and our businesses are doing okay. From some surveys and just face-to-face, mask-to-mask visits with them, they have concern of shutdown again, and the fear of losing that income for those months. I mean, we're in the shoulder season now anyway, so we know that November and December are kind of weird months for them, but they're hoping that they don't have that shutdown because they are abiding by everything. They're doing what's asked of them with masks and cleaning and everything. So I agree with exactly what the mayor just said. And I think our businesses, and I know some of them are on this Zoom, could maybe chime in, Commissioner Marcella, but I think they want to stay alive. We're ready for round 3 of our grant cycle that we'll push out soon, to assist with that too.
Commissioner Marcella, I just wanted to chime in to both Mayor and Marla's point about the 5-star and kind of hybrid model. From our understanding, that's not really like a possibility right now, whether it's CDPHE or CalFO reviewing that process. It sounds like it's not going to be quite feasible until maybe the spring, which is unfortunate, but I think they just have to do some more review. And right now, Mesa County is kind of taking advantage of it, but it seems like that's going to change.
Well, then I think we should put it in place.
Well, and Mayor, I think we've been kind of behaving in the spirit of what Mesa County is putting forward. They're just putting it forward in they're documenting and formalizing it to be maybe recognized by the state so that there's kind of a level playing field and maybe all of this is better documented. But I saw that and that was my first response. Well, Lake County, we're kind of doing this already, figuring out what makes sense and what levers to pull, because and a question in the chat on going into red or not, votes not to go into red. And if we've seen spread through businesses, what I understand today is that we have not seen contact tracing back to the patronage of businesses, but the problem might be occurring with employees. And that is something that I think we have seen business owners or restaurant owners, dealing with. I don't think we have an issue with people not, following proper protocol on quarantining or instructing their employees how to react and how the business should behave in that way when we're seeing that. So I think we need to recognize that. We need to ask, that you communicate with your employees and, curb things like employee parties or just have that. I know in talking to one business owner, they are constantly having that conversation with folks on, weighing the benefits, the pros and cons to your personal behavior outside of work and what that would mean for your colleagues and your peers in the employment place and the business. Now I will say, as far as we've, I feel like gotten on a good track to establish our response, there are certainly triggers and things that may occur and kind of data that we may see that will cause us, that might cause us to pull some levers. and I think once Colleen gets on here too, I had mentioned to her earlier today or yesterday, even if we aren't designated as red, there may be some triggers that we should pull now, recognizing some transmission that fall under red. And we should go a little more restrictive in certain areas because we believe that is what the data locally is telling us. And we can do that in hopes of slowing the spread. Those triggers I wouldn't presume to be, the closure of businesses, although if there is a particular incident in a business, we're going to have to deal with that. We can certainly deal with that and support that business on a case-by-case basis. But I don't want to say that we certainly advocate and plan to move forward as we have been and better developing that. And we may put in some other measures community-wide. And I see right now there's a question that popped up about how will short-term renters be affected. And right now lodging is considered critical. And so my understanding, unless it is purple, because that will be kind of a more complete shutdown by the state, and travel would be more restricted. But if we went into red, lodging is critical, and short-term rentals and management of those lodging facilities, however they're defined, would not be affected. Short-term rentals would stay open and will stay open.
All right. Kaylee, I don't know if you can provide us any background on this, or Jackie from Lake County Public Health. Can you provide us with some information about what an outbreak is considered, and if we've had anywhere in Lake County that is considered to have been a source of an outbreak?
Hi, this is Jackie Littlepage, Lake County Public Health Agency. At this point in time, an outbreak would be defined as 2 persons living in 2 separate households testing positive for COVID-19. And we have not yet had any official outbreaks, to my knowledge, being deemed at any of our businesses.
Thanks,
Do you have
Jackie.
any further questions?
I don't think so. I see that we also have some city council members on, and I was wondering if they have any of their perspective to share as well at this point.
Hi. Yes, thanks, Kayla. This is Dana Green. I'm not sure if this is so much my input as a city council person, but more as a physician, or just as a community member. But looking at the red dial, I think one thing for Lake County to note is that, at least for retail, there's no change in the current limitations going from orange to red. It's 50% capacity in orange and 50% capacity in red. So a lot of our retail businesses will not experience a change in what they're able to do, at least according to my read of this dial. It's really the restaurants that bear a lot of the burden, because they go to kind of takeout only and indoor dining being closed. So that's just one point I'd like people to be aware of.
Thank you, Dana. Mayor Labbe, do you have anything else to add? And Commissioner Glenn, do you have anything to add as well at this point?
No, thank you. I think this has been well considered. I think everybody's trying to take our businesses and our community into account as best they can. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I too believe that we got to keep our community open as best we can, take all the proper measures. As someone I know that's in the medical field said, everybody in America is going to get this. Some of you won't even know you have it, and other people will suffer greatly from it. But we have to take care of ourselves, and that is all community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. So I think from the consensus that we gather from our city and county partners, I think that our next projected path forward is to continue operating at orange levels at this point, so that our businesses can remain open, or our restaurants can remain open in that limited capacity. Would that be a fair statement to my fellow board members?
I think so, with just kind of the nuance of, we yes, continue to operate in orange, and perhaps, there are some triggers that public health, or levers that public health can pull outside of affecting downtown business and economy, but in some other areas where we're seeing larger gatherings. So those might be some things that we might only be forced to consider and implement if in red, but we may, because we have all the authority to kind of put in some more restrictive measures. I think we'll continue the conversation with public health to look at what some of those are, and perhaps implement and include those in upcoming public health orders as alternative tools to, blanket, just shutting down businesses, restaurants, et cetera, to see if we can get a hold of the numbers, our numbers better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if that sounds appropriate, Commissioner Glenn, what Commissioner Mudge has just said, I will communicate that information with Colleen Nelson back to CDPHE.
That's fine.
Okay. Greg, do you have anything to add there that you'd like us to communicate back?
No.
Okay. So we will we'll communicate that back to CDPHE, and we won't move forward with closing those restaurants any further at this point, because the data that we have doesn't show that our spread is coming from those places. I think that it is important to know at this point as a community and communicate this while we have so many of you in the same place, that the spread that we see in Lake County is coming from
I'm not concerned. It's your phone that you stole it.
Small gatherings, household gatherings, those type of things. And so it's really important that at this time that we are very diligent in each playing our role in protecting our community and protecting our businesses from having further measures taken. So continue to practice those commitments to containment and help protect our neighbors. So that's going to be really, really important going forward. So please, please, please help us with those mitigation measures to slow the spread as much as possible. And I think it's really important that through this conversation, we've identified as community leadership that we really have the philosophy of continuing to keep our small businesses open and working and thriving as much as possible as they can through the pandemic, and potentially to help keep our schools open and our children in school. And if we have those goals and those philosophies as a community, then we need to practice as a community committing to containment so that those goals can be achieved. So I would just ask everyone to please help us in those commitments to containment. And so with that, I think we're at a point now where we can jump into potentially our next topic of conversation, which is our CARES Act funding. I'd like to chat with Marla a little bit about the EDC program at this point, and then the city a little bit about their potential plans for CARES Act funding as well. So Marla, I'm going to just ask you for the basis of your program.
Absolutely. A lot of you I know are familiar that we've had a COVID round 1 grant, round 2 grant, and now we're looking at round 3. The application is almost completed, and we have a committee meeting on Thursday morning. The only differences is we're asking the businesses to kind of give us a good sense of how their summer was from, let's say, the April-May time period to October-November through the summer season. But the application is just like round 1 and round 2.
Okay. Greg, do you have any ideas on the city's path forward with their allocation of CARES Act funding?
No, we know that we have tried to put as much burden on our FEMA application as we could to keep CARES Act funding open. FEMA's been a terrible partner in this process. God, they are so just worthless. I'm sorry. I didn't say that out loud, did I? Okay, so we'll rely more on our CARES Act funding, and I don't know right this second how much is left. What I would say is CARES Act funding or not, if the city needs to jump in as we did in the spring and put money in the pot to help our businesses get through this, I'll speak for city council. I mean, I think they've got my back on this. We will do what we need to do to keep our businesses alive, keep our people in their homes, keep people fed. As a community, we've done all those things. We have done a great job. Congratulations to everybody in our community. But we've got to get through 4 or 5 more months of this. And so I'm still worried. And just so you know, we're all in. If we can get our community through the end of this pandemic and keep ourselves whole, we don't have a mass evictions, we don't have businesses going out of business, and people are fed. I think we will deserve a great pat on the back as a community. So we're all in.
And I think it goes, this can't be stated enough. And having communicated with a business owner who forgot, that the unmet needs committee is in place and can help individuals, can help your employees. This person was really worried about their employees, not or above, the operation and their ability to kind of weather the storm, if you will. But as business owners individually and for your employees, reaching out to Lake County Community Fund, reaching out to the city, contacting Commissioner Marcella, myself, the mayor, Marla Akridge at EDC, anytime for anything. We understand that you all are good at what you do and strategizing your business and strategizing an entire comprehensive plan of how your employees are gonna continue with their quality of life, or stay in the community, or keep afloat on a personal level, is not everybody's strong suit, and is not necessarily something that you need to work alone on. There's plenty of folks out there, and Marla, the mayor, Commissioner Marcella, and I can easily connect you with the resources or the people to help you think through those, if nothing else.
Yeah, Commissioner Mudge, I'd like to add that she's right. I mean, there's never a silly or crazy question. If you need to call or email, send up smoke signals, text me, whatever, to figure out how you keep your business alive, because this is unprecedented time. And we have a team of volunteers that are amazing that help us. And I know a lot of them are on here. John Tierney's on here, Donna's on here. We have several folks that'll step in and help you. I know we've had from conversations that people go, well, if I get a grant, I have to pay it back. There is no free money in this world. A grant is that, but there is stipulations and just comments and criteria that we want to hear so that we can send it back to the applicants, and then also for our organization and also for the federal government. But it's not a new job for you or an arduous task, or you're getting extra work to done. We can help you with that. And if you have difficulty filling out an application, let us know, because we can jump in and help you with the application process and get your documents in place for that. So yes, please, that's what we're here for.
Thank you, Marla. Mayor Labbe, I've been working with Donna to forecast your FEMA potential reimbursement and then any leftovers from CARES Act funding, so that I can put that in for our next round of reimbursement for CARES Act funding. I can connect with you on what the city's remaining amount is from CARES Act funding, and then you can make a determination with council of where you'd like that money to be placed, if that's appropriate.
Thank you very much. I didn't know exactly where we were. I knew we were getting close. I think we had about $118,000 as our portion of CARES Act funding from the beginning. Depending on how much we have left, I think that the county has extended an additional $86,000 to the Unmet Needs Committee. Thank you very much. You guys are great. If we have money we can put in that pot, we'd be happy to as well. That's my opinion, and because I think it's that important.
Thank you. John, I'm not 100% sure about CARES Act funding being used for improving or implementing online sales, but we can look through that federal guidance, and I can send you a copy of that so that we can look at that and see what it can be used for or not used for. Marla, do you have a copy of that federal guidance, the FAQs?
I don't have the FAQs, but I have the general things that Kaylee had sent a while last week.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, well, I think with that, is there anything further to discuss today before we adjourn? Commissioner Glenn, do you have anything further to add?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Mudge?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, part of, the EDC's work and the ongoing conversations with the board and the support and the programs and tourism panel and lodging dollars for marketing and advertising. One of the comments in the chat were, looking at revenue rather than supplanting lost expenses. I think that's certainly a piece of this, and that's available, and those conversations are able to happen. Those resources are here, and I know I've had those conversations with the tourism panel too on kind of reallocating some of those dollars locally to look at the support there and figuring out how we keep efforts as I think is in place right now, the online efforts, and how we can sustain that rather than relying on, the volunteers of these boards who have jobs and families and lives themselves and can't sustain that necessarily, but are willing to provide that service. So please join those conversations as well. There definitely should be accessible to you. And again, if you don't know who or when or what those opportunities are, reach out to us. And this we've talked about getting banners up and simple messaging. We've talked about putting certain compliance signs in business windows and restaurant windows. We have to spend our resources addressing and going after the best, what we see as the best impact and biggest impact to the best benefit of the community. People going into restaurants and employees not wearing masks, you have all the freedom to choose to turn around and walk out of an establishment. And, compliance is a huge issue across the state and across the nation. And we simply don't have the resources to kind of continue to try to come down with a hammer on that. We need to focus on, improving morale, improving business, improving our health above all else of the community, and maintaining our quality of life. So we're trying to focus on those. We've lost a few employees through transition, both at the county and city, which doesn't help either. So I would say that's where we need to put the energy.
Thank you. Mayor Labbe, do you have anything at this point to add? All right. Kaylee, do you have any announcements to add before we adjourn this afternoon? No?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Just reinforce everything you said. It's individual responsibility. And I hope that with this decision, everyone kind of takes it as an opportunity to really step up after this decision was made.
All right.
Thanks, Kaylee. I wonder if Jackie wants to speak at all, because we do have a new hire in support of environmental health.
Yeah, we have now hired a new environmental health specialist who will start tomorrow to replace Becca Bear, who was our retail food inspector. And once Mark is on board, he will begin coming around to all the local businesses and introducing himself, and will continue to move forward with trying to help with guidance on the state's public health orders or social distancing as they come down from the state. So if you have any further questions, always reach out to myself or the environmental health at co.lake.co.us email, and we will try to funnel your questions as we always have. So thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. We appreciate that. All right, so it sounds like we have a path forward. I will work with Colleen, our Director of Public Health, to communicate that to CDPHE. Mayor Labbe, I may reach out to you and invite you to that conversation later on in the week, and we'll have that conversation with them about our path forward. And we will continue to communicate out to the community what our next steps are. So with that, we do have a public health town hall planned for next Wednesday. Kaylee put the link in the chat, so please be sure to watch out for that. We'll provide some updates at that point. And if you have any other questions or comments or feedback, please feel free to reach out to any of us, to Commissioner Glenn, Commissioner Mudge, myself, Mayor Labbe, Marla Akridge, and we'll be sure to point you in the right direction for any kind of resources or get any answers to any questions that you might have. So thank you for your time today. We do appreciate it and appreciate the conversation. And we will adjourn this afternoon at 3:41 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.